Hi there! So today I thought I would talk with you a little bit about beauty and budgeting. I mentioned to you in my recent big Sephora haul video that wasn't something that was normal for me. That was a very large order by my standards. It was something that I had put a lot of thought into and something I'd really saved up for. But I also mentioned that I would in the very near future be talking about beauty and budgeting and how I determine whether or not I can afford something. And to me, being able to afford something isn't just simply about having the money to purchase it. So today I am sharing with you the 3 ways that I determine whether or not I can afford a beauty purchase. So if you're interested in seeing more about that, then just keep watching. Okay, so the first way that I determine whether or not I can afford a beauty purchase is I ask myself, do I have the cash to pay for this item, or am I going to be able to pay off my credit card in full at the end of the month? When my husband and I were first married, we decided together that we were not going to carry any consumer debt. We use our credit cards and we use them often, but we do not carry a balance. So that means that every month we have to pay off any purchases that we have made in full. It's just not something that we are comfortable with. We don't feel like we can enjoy purchases or things that we buy if we know that we haven't actually really paid for them in full each month. I personally cannot fully enjoy a beauty product when I know that I'm not really able to afford it in that way. If I bought something and then I'm still paying for it 6 months or a year from now, to me that means I could not afford that and I was not paying cash for it, and therefore it really wasn't something that I should have bought. So for me, it's very important to always either pay cash at the time of purchase through either real money cash or my debit card, or put it on the credit card and then pay that off that month. The second way that I determine whether or not I can afford a beauty purchase is to ask myself if all of my other needs and obligations are being met. And by that I mean, have I paid all my utility bills? Do I have my mortgage paid? Am I properly saving for retirement? Is our emergency fund still fully funded? We have a amount in our savings that we have to stay at for us. It's what our comfort level is. And any time that we have to dip into that for an emergency around the house, we purpose to get back up to that number to make sure that we never go below it. So if I want to make a beauty purchase, but our emergency fund isn't fully funded, then that's not the right time for me to make that purchase. I wait until all of my other needs and obligations are met before I go on to my wants, which the wants to me are always the beauty purchases. Okay, so the third and final way that I determine whether or not I can truly afford a beauty purchase is to ask myself, is this something that if I told my husband about it, he would support? I don't think that there's ever a time when you should spend money on wants that your spouse or partner would not approve of. If you are having to hide purchases from your spouse, I think you really need to ask yourself, why am I hiding it? Is it because we can't afford it? We don't have the money? Our other needs or obligations aren't being met? They wouldn't approve. And that doesn't mean that if I buy a third neutral palette in a month's time, my husband doesn't tease me and say, doesn't that look like all the other palettes you have? And of course I say, no, it's so totally different. But the difference is he's teasing me because as a guy, he just doesn't see the difference in the palettes, but he doesn't really care that I've spent the money on it because he knows if I'm buying it, I can afford it. So anytime I make a purchase, big or small, my husband always knows about it. Now that doesn't mean that every time I go into Walgreens and I buy a nail polish, I ask his permission first, but that means that if I come home with a bag from Walgreens when I went there for one thing and maybe come home with a big bag, I don't have a problem opening that bag and saying, well, while I was there picking up a prescription, I also bought X, Y, and Z. It's just not an issue in our relationship because we have already discussed all of these things ahead of time, and we know that 1, we have the cash or we're paying off our credit card. 2, all of our other needs and obligations are met. And 3, there's no reason to keep those secrets from each other because the needs and obligations are met and we can afford it. So that really eliminates a lot of the stressors that can often happen in a marriage. So those are the 3 ways that I have found are right for me to determine whether or not I can truly afford my beauty purchases. This may not be right for you. It may not feel like a necessity in your life, or you may feel like these are too strict of guidelines, but it really works for my husband and I have just found that I really enjoy my purchases a lot more when all of these 3 tests are met and I know that I can truly afford all of these purchases. I never feel guilt about my purchases, and I never wonder if I really should have spent the money or not, because I know that if I ask myself these 3 questions in advance, I never have to second guess any of those things, and it creates a lot less stress in my marriage. So that is it. I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you very soon. Bye-bye.